Welcome to our exploration of the Enlightenment, an era shaped by scientific discovery, intellectual transformation, political questioning, and new ways of understanding the world. In this chapter, we examine how thinkers, artists, writers, philosophers, and scientists challenged traditional authority and emphasized reason, observation, education, and human inquiry as powerful tools for understanding society, nature, and human existence. The Enlightenment emerged partly from the scientific revolution, a period during which scholars began questioning long-held assumptions about the universe and relying more heavily on observation, experimentation, and mathematics. Earlier societies often explained natural events through tradition, religion, or ancient authority, but scientific revolution thinkers increasingly believed that the universe operated according to discoverable laws. Figures such as Copernicus, Galileo, Kepler, and Newton transformed humanity's understanding of nature, astronomy, motion, and physics. Copernicus challenged the belief that Earth stood at the center of the universe, while Galileo used observation and scientific instruments to support new astronomical theories. Newton's laws of motion and gravity suggested that the physical universe followed rational and predictable principles. These discoveries had enormous cultural consequences. If nature operated according to reason and natural law, many Enlightenment thinkers began asking whether society, government, education, religion, and human behavior could also be studied and improved through rational inquiry. The Enlightenment emphasized reason, skepticism, education, and intellectual freedom. Philosophers and writers questioned traditional political authority, social inequality, superstition, and the concentration of power within monarchies and religious institutions. Thinkers such as John Locke, Voltaire, Montesquieu, and Rousseau explored ideas about natural rights, liberty, government, religious tolerance, and the relationship between individuals and society. One of the central ideas of the Enlightenment was the belief that human beings could improve society through knowledge and reason. Education became increasingly important because Enlightenment thinkers believed ignorance contributed to injustice and oppression. The spread of books, newspapers, pamphlets, and salons allowed ideas to circulate more widely across Europe. Literature during the Enlightenment reflected these intellectual changes. Writers used satire, essays, novels, and political criticism to challenge authority and encourage critical thinking. Voltaire criticized intolerance and abuses of power, while Jonathan Swift used satire to expose social and political problems. Literature increasingly focused on human behavior, reason, social reform, and the complexity of modern society. The visual arts also changed during this period. While the earlier Baroque era emphasized emotional intensity, grandeur, and theatricality, Enlightenment art increasingly reflected order, balance, clarity, and rational structure. Neoclassicism emerged as artists turned once again to ancient Greece and Rome for inspiration, admiring classical ideals of harmony, civic virtue, and reason. Artists used clean lines, balanced compositions, and themes drawn from classical history and mythology to reflect Enlightenment values. Art became connected not only to beauty, but also to morality, citizenship, education, and intellectual ideals. Music flourished during the Enlightenment as composers developed forms emphasizing structure, balance, and clarity. Composers such as Mozart, Haydn, and early Beethoven created symphonies, sonatas, operas, and chamber music that reflected both emotional expression and formal organization. Public concerts became increasingly common, allowing music to reach audiences beyond aristocratic courts and churches. Opera also evolved during this period, combining music, theater, storytelling, and social commentary. Some operas reflected Enlightenment concerns about class, freedom, morality, and human relationships, showing how music and performance could engage with larger intellectual and social debates. Beyond Europe, this chapter also explores Japan during a period of relative isolation under the Tokugawa shogunate. Although Japan limited much direct foreign influence during this time, Japanese culture flourished through developments in literature, theater, visual art, and urban culture. Kabuki theater, woodblock prints, and refined artistic traditions reflected the complexity and creativity of Japanese society. Japanese art and culture during this period often emphasized elegance, simplicity, discipline, and careful observation of nature and everyday life. These traditions developed independently from European Enlightenment culture while still revealing universal human interests in beauty, performance, knowledge, and social order. As we move through this chapter, we will see how the Enlightenment transformed ideas about science, politics, religion, education, art, and human rights. This period encouraged people to question inherited assumptions and believe that reason and knowledge could improve society. The Enlightenment invites us to think about the power of ideas to reshape civilization. It reminds us that scientific discovery and intellectual inquiry do not remain limited to laboratories or books. They influence politics, culture, education, music, literature, and the way people understand themselves and the world around them. By studying the scientific revolution, the Enlightenment, and cultural developments beyond Europe, we gain a deeper understanding of how human beings have used reason, creativity, and curiosity to challenge tradition and imagine new possibilities for society and human progress.